let's take a look at this week's internet weather. So this is the most probed ports for the last week. I guess I've been away from the show for a little while, but 443 is apparently in first place, and that was the same way it was last week. Followed by, so first 443 is HTTPS. 23 TCP is in second, and that's Telnet. 445 is SMB, that's third. 22 TCP is SSH, in fourth. 80 ICMP is just plain old ping. 81 TCP is an alternate web port, but we've seen it with certain web vulnerabilities in IoT devices. 8089 is up 9 spots, which is quite something. Typically we associate that with Splunk, but there's probably at least a few more things that use that port. 8080 is another web port that, again, is up 5. Our 3389 TCP is down by 3, that's Remote Desktop Protocol, and 8545 is in 10th, that is Ethereum GF daemon. So taking a look at the most sources probing, again, this is individual sources and not volume of traffic. The top 4 have not changed this week: 445, 23, 80, and 8080. 8080 again being another alternate web port. 443 is up 4 slots, it's in 5th. 5431, I believe, is a Broadcom UPnP port. I'm pretty sure that's the case. 80 ICMP, 22 we've seen before. 1433 is Microsoft SQL Server, I believe. So number 9, 1433 TCP, that is MS SQL Server, and then 8291 is specific to MikroTik routers. Taking a look at 445 TCP, that's SMB, that's been in the top 10 for the longest time. You can see a 365-day view here. You can see it's been trending down over the last year. I think it really hit its peak during WannaCry. Right. You can see in the last month or so, though, it is starting to creep back up a little bit. The cause for that at this point is unknown. Scan sources on port 443 TCP, HTTPS. And we know that one's in the top place this week. Yeah. And in the last month or so, we've seen some concentrated scanning. Mostly the sources for those are in Brazil, US, and the Netherlands in like VPS hosting providers. Okay. So whether or not it's research or attacks at this point, it's unclear. Scan flows on port 23 TCP. You can see for the most part in the last 30 days it's stayed the same with a couple of spikes. Those spikes are typically in the US or Brazil. Not necessarily the same sources as in 443, but also scanning sources in those two countries. So 8089 TCP, which we've been calling Splunk, has actually seen a number of spikes in the last month or so. Again, US and Brazil. I'm not sure what it is, but it seems like Brazil has sort of woken up in the last couple of days and is starting to do some serious scanning. So that's something to keep an eye on. I'm not sure exactly what that represents yet.
There's something about the hosting in that.
It might be, or it might be that someone's spun up some sort of new scanning effort, either research or malicious, and is just looking for new stuff. Who knows? This one did not make it to the top 10, but it made it to a list of anomalies, so I figured I'd take a look at it. 5683 UDP, CoAP, Constrained Application Protocol. It's like a data transfer protocol specific to low-power devices, and typically that means IoT. Did a little bit of reading on it. There was an interesting talk from last year. It sort of falls into the same realm as like a MQTT or other like lightweight protocols that you see a lot in IoT devices. But not only were there a couple of vulnerabilities, like a handful of them, it's also possible that people are interested in this for amplification attacks, because with UDP you can spoof the source, so you could use these as amplification points, send a bunch of spoof traffic to them, and the larger response goes back to your actual target. So that's possible as well. Sources here, there's only a few of them, and they all seem to be in the Netherlands. 8080 I figured I'd put up because it did jump a few spots. That's, again, alternate web port, and there are a couple IoT devices that have vulnerabilities. And you can see in the last month-ish, the baseline has definitely risen. It's always been kind of spiky from what we can see, but that baseline's up a bit.
Seeing more and more of the scanning and botnet activities associated with sort of new vectors in IoT. So a lot of the internet weather stays pretty stable, but the weather this week did show a new IoT port that is coming into scope.